So, Trezor 2 is coming, yes. We are hosting a hackathon on 27th until 29th, where we introduce the concept of Trezor 2 to the hackers, the fellow hackers and community members who will participate. We have people from all around the world coming.
Beyond the horizon is a vast universe worth exploring. Teeming with life, it explodes in arrays of light and color, defiantly pressing against the void with the persistent whisper, "We exist." What might we find if we but choose to turn our gaze upward? What life exists? What allies might we find if we only look? Welcome to the Block Explorer, where a humble cryptonaut searches the skies. Well, thank you, Alena, for joining me today. I cannot tell you how thankful I am to get a chance to sit down and ask you some questions regarding one of the cooler inventions in the crypto space that I'm aware of, the Trezor Hardware wallet. And you are the CEO of SatoshiLabs, which makes the Trezor wallet. It is a very solid product if you're looking for a way to store some of the top cryptocurrencies in the world safely in a wallet that you can hold and know that it is not going to be stolen, even if the device itself is stolen. So what I like to start out with, Alena, is when did you become interested in Bitcoin?
That was 2010. Ironically, I didn't start mining and I didn't start investing. That time I was studying international relationships, and that was the College of International Relations, and my focus was economic diplomacy. And my thesis was about monetary system and the international monetary system. And I was researching, and I was reading a lot about local currencies and about SDR, which is quite a failed project of International Monetary Fund, and about the position of petrodollar and euro and yuan, and I found out about Bitcoin, and then I met my friend who he's such a big enthusiast. He can talk hours about this stuff, and he said, there's a first Bitcoin conference ever to be held in Prague in a week. I said, okay, great, I'm going there. So he got me in, and there was Max Kaiser on the conference. Cool. Talking. It was quite cool to see him there, and so basically my interest was purely academical at the beginning, and as I was studying the economic part, and I understood why the monetary system as we have it today is doomed to fail and is not working well. And so I started to be increasingly interested in Bitcoin because I saw, this is a great alternative to dollar, just not to mention dollar specifically, but a great alternative to, international money. And then 2-3 years later, I went to a random conference on security, also invited, by some friend. And that's when I met Slush again. We saw each other before, but we never talked really. And I met Slush, and he started to talk about the idea of a hardware wallet. And he started to explain. He was very patient with me. So I said, that's really fascinating. So explain how it works, and what do I do when I lose it? All these kind of questions that people give you when you introduce Trezor for the first time. And we started to talk, and at that time I was the head of sales in an insurance company of Societe Generale here in Czech Republic. And so I was quite busy, but I said, okay guys, you know what, I'm going to help you with the crowdfunding campaign and with the marketing a little bit to set up some very basic website, and off you go, And we worked so much together that we ended up creating this company, SatoshiLabs. And I quit my greatly paid job in the banking to go full on Bitcoin. And I think I'm very happy I've done that move.
And would you say that this would be pretty much the history of Trezor's story as you're telling this?
The history of Trezor is, of course, more than just the history of few people. It is about making the entire ecosystem move forward. And because Slush was professionally involved in Bitcoin, and basically Bitcoin was his day job since 2010, I think. He invented the concept of the mining pool, and he started to run the first mining pool, Slush pool. And he lost some Bitcoins on hacks, and he saw people losing Bitcoins around him. So then when he met my other partner, Stik, or Pavel Rusnak, who happens to be a white hat hacker and security enthusiast and a cryptographer, and he loves embedded coding and hardware, and he founded the first hackerspace in Prague. So when these two guys met together, they said there has been some project, some German professor tried to create a hardware wallet with his students, and he probably never finished. And so they thought, okay, we should do it. If nobody has done it, we should. And so they did. We did. And it took over a year and a half more from, early research until we delivered actual working product.
One of the most revolutionary security devices known to cryptocurrency.
I believe so, and I would even go as far as to say one of the most revolutionary things in individual security. When Mike Hearn saw Trezor in 2013, Mike used to work for Gmail or Google before, and he evaluated Trezor, and he said, this is the most sophisticated authentication device in the world. Like, there's nothing like Trezor out there. And since I'm a business developer, I said, okay, if this can encrypt and if this can do the security for Bitcoin, it surely can do security for other stuff too. So I would say this is something not just for the crypto space, but something that can help a lot with other problems that we have online.
Well, that actually is a perfect segue into the next questions I have for you, which is, are there any use cases of blockchain technology beyond Bitcoin that interest you at this phase in the blockchain's evolution?
I'm very much interested in seeing the public budget on the blockchain. And I'm telling you why. You need to understand the environment I grew up in. Was, I grew up in the communist times, and ever since I can remember, our politicians were always crooked. And the public money, the public budget was always spent in a very shady ways, and so on. So I think, if you'd ask me what's the killer app for blockchain, then I would say it's public budget on blockchain. So first of all, I can see exactly where my money goes, and I can vote where my money should go to if I want to. I understand there's a lot of people. Or vote on
somebody to vote for you.
Yeah, I mean, I can give up my right to vote, and I can say I trust some specialists that they will decide better what to do with my tax money, right? But if not, I would like to have a say. And I said, for example, if I'm an atheist, I don't want to see my tax money go to support church. Just an example, okay? Or I don't support weapons and army, so I don't want my money to be spent on these things. And so people would be able to see and enjoy the transparency that's not there at all today.
Sounds like you're saying that you want kind of the reverse of what we have today, where the citizens are the ones who should not have any privacy, and our lives should be transparent because we are a potential risk to the state, whereas the state gets to hide behind this opaque wall of national security and invoke that every time they say, well, you can't know what we're doing because it's national security. Meanwhile, they're actually buying $10,000 bottles of champagne and yachts. So you're advocating transparency for higher powers and security and privacy for the citizens.
Of course. I mean, politicians are there because we are paying them. They are our employees. Okay? And this should be clear to everyone. They are not authorities who should, govern our lives just because they sit there. They are there so they can make our lives better. And if I have the feeling that they don't make my life better, well, then I want to have a say in that. Otherwise, what's the point of a government if they don't take care of their people and then don't make their lives more safer, comfortable, healthier, and whatever? Maybe eventually, if we continue in this talk, we'll find out that there's not much reasoning for a big government at all, but that's another topic. I don't want to go there. But the blockchain would not eliminate criminals completely, because if they want to bribe the politician, well, they do it in cash, right? But still, the official flows and everything, and it could be beautifully visualized for people to see exactly which resort is getting what money. And step 3 in this, I would apply something like a Kickstarter for each ministry. So let's say the Ministry of Healthcare. I don't know what system you have in the US, but here we have ministries. The Ministry of Healthcare, they want to build 5 new hospitals and do other stuff. So why don't they put up the projects? Like, this is what we need to invest to. Please vote, and I would just allocate my money to their projects like a Kickstarter. And I would say, yes, this does make sense. No, this does not make sense at all. So I think this is the killer app for blockchain.
Currently, people can go online, at least in America, I know that they can go online and they can see the bills that are being proposed in Congress, and they can read them, they can see where other people have voted in the past, and so on and so forth. Now, what I suspect that you're saying is that you advocate not only being able to read it, but being able to actually vote and have that vote matter directly from their PC or their cell phone.
I'm not really talking about lawmaking. For laws, I don't think our politicians are, equipped enough to write good laws. I think experts should do that. Really understand what they're talking about, not politicians, because they cover too many topics. They're never focused. They represent some kind of power. So I think, lawmaking, we should just gather all the smartest people and work on that particular topic. But for budget, for public spending, for, if I can at least allocate a part of the taxes as I want, I would be a happier citizen. I would be a happier citizen if I can decide on voluntary basis how much taxes I want to pay, but, that's a long run.
This does lend really to the next question that I had, which is how do you see Trezor's role in the use cases that we've just spoken about?
Well, Trezor, as I said to you earlier, is a individual security device. So if we go beyond Bitcoin and take the security of Bitcoin and take all the security design of Trezor, how it's designed today, I don't mean the surface, but the architecture of its security. And you can apply this to a much bigger space, much more use cases than just Bitcoin or digital money. One of the hot topics today is the protection of your identity and reusing of identities, reusing of passwords, and so on. And a lot of young people who basically grew up with internet in their hands, they don't care so much about, disclosing or not disclosing things. But there are people who do care, like you. There are people who do care whether my personal data is online and want to control the amount of personal stuff that's published about them. And why? I mean, it's really reasonable to do that because there are also bad people out there in the internet who want to steal, who want to impersonate you and do some harm, and not for the fact of doing harm to you, but to earn some money for them. So a lot of people are not aware of the fact that when they talk online and when they fill out their profiles and they reuse identities. So for example, they log in with Facebook accounts, with their Twitter account, and they cross-link everything through the internet, and they're giving up most of the things that they think they're stored well and protected well with those companies, but they're not. Trezor comes in with the public key cryptography. So Trezor basically can replace usernames and passwords by signatures derived from the private keys inside its safe environment. Well, what does it mean? You can basically use services online that would normally require to at least put in some email when you register. You can now, with Trezor, potentially use those websites without revealing anything about yourself.
Wow, that's a use case that actually I hadn't thought of with respect to Trezor, and it's something that I've been considering a lot because many people in the space, they are aware that identity verification is kind of important in some ways, or at least the knowledge that you are indeed a unique individual. This might have some merit in at least the beginning steps in an evolution of some of these solutions. That's a very interesting point you bring up.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that collect a lot of data about their clients. I believe because they store all this data in centralized server houses, they create huge honeypots of data that are then easy to hack and steal and sell on the black market. I also believe that companies should evaluate the amount of data collected. So go through it and say, do I really need this guy's home address? Do I really need this and that? And just trim away what's not needed urgently. Of course, it's marketing data. Of course, it's, big data, great for analysis, great for whatever you want to do in the future, sell, those databases somewhere else and so on. So there's huge pressure from the sales departments, from the business developers to collect as much as possible. And I understand it because I'm a marketer and business developer myself. But then for the security, really, it does matter how much data you collect. And so, for example, Trezor allows you to access your bank, right? Your Bitcoin bank online, basically through the interface of mytrezor.com, and you don't even enter any username and password. Yet all your financial data there, and you can transact and so on, but you never registered. You don't have to, because you have unique private keys, you have unique XPubs, connected with your Trezor wallets, and that's enough. That's all that the system needs to allow you to work with your money. And this is one of the showcases. Another one where I see going Trezor is with easy encryption of documents and communication, and that's what we're working on. Also with Trezor 2.
Oh, I lost you on when you said Trezor 2.
Yes,
my eyes opened up.
So Trezor 2 is coming. Yes, we are hosting a hackathon on 27th until 29th, where we introduce the concept of Trezor 2 to the hackers, the fellow hackers and community members who will participate. We have people from all around the world coming. Again, you can see how the community lives with us and breathes with us. People are really traveling, to some little country in the Central Europe to join our hackathon, and I really feel so happy about it. We will have Andreas Antonopoulos as a mentor. We'll have Joe Ho, the famous white hat hacker, as a mentor. And I saw something like 70 or 60 participants for the hackathon. So we'll be introducing Trezor 2. It will have some new hardware features. I will not disclose all of them, but it will definitely have a slightly bigger display that will make it a little bit more comfortable to view all the details of your transaction. But basically, the biggest revolution is under the hood. We will be rebuilding the entire software stack, and will make it easy for any programmer with basic JavaScript or Python knowledge to code with Trezor, to develop security applications, or to integrate Trezor security into their systems, and so on. So I see 10 years from now, maybe earlier, people who are buying new computers and they're buying, a mouse and a keyboard, they will buy a Trezor, because that will be a really simple way to secure their data, their documents, their online identity, and so on.
So this brings me, of course, to the next question. From there, what do you see as the biggest barriers for mass adoption of blockchain technology beyond Bitcoin? And what do you think it's going to take to get to where mom goes and buys a keyboard and a mouse and a Trezor?
Well, first of all, it takes patience and time. As with most innovations and new technologies, that's a very typical parallel between Bitcoin and early internet. People were making fun of internet at first, and then, gradually became something we cannot live without. So I believe it will be the case of Bitcoin and blockchain as well. So it takes time until the infrastructure is ready. It takes time until people get their heads around a new concept, like the case of Bitcoin. They don't understand it, and it will take some time until the wallets and the services are easy and secure. I hope so. Without security, it won't happen. Security is very, very important. Unless you have solid security, people will go through losses and disappointments, and eventually they will drop it like, oh, never again. So all the systems that we are building, we need to also look at having them secure, and that's where Trezor can help. Because basically Trezor is agnostic, Trezor can work with the most currencies, cryptocurrencies. You can use Trezor as a security component to any website that deals with financial data or with private data.
And we're talking about something that is relatively considered foundational to security, which is two-factor authentication. And what it seems like Trezor does is it offers that level of two-factor authentication, whereas my phone can be hacked, where I have my two-factor authenticator for Google Auth, right, or something to that effect. I'm utilizing a centralized service for Google authentication on my cell phone, which is also potentially hackable. Whereas a Trezor, you almost have to have somebody there physically with the device attempting to hack it. And I don't even know if it's possible to hack it from there because it's encrypted with a PIN that I'm using. And the number of potential PINs that they would have to go through to find mine, unless they're torturing me or something, is quite a few, right?
It's quite a few, and the delay between the wrong PIN entry and the next one is exponential. So they would spend, centuries, probably.
They have a small window, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and then it becomes, irrelevant because they would have to wait years until they can try again. So we've recently introduced this second factor authentication according to the FIDO Alliance standards. The Google Authenticator that you mentioned is using a little bit different standard. Google Authenticator, or this one-time password, basically, we consider this standard not the best one, because when you initialize your Google Auth or another TOTP authentication, then the secret that you have is shared with the provider via internet. So you can consider this compromised from very beginning. Whereas the U2F, actually, the funny thing is Google, who promoted the TOTP since very early times, they made it a fashion, they made it really mass adopted, and then they dropped it themselves because they realized this fact, and they helped creating the next standard, which is the U2F by FIDO Alliance. Actually, all of the Google employees, they are using U2F with a token like Trezor. And as I said, the TOTP shares the secret via internet, whereas the second one doesn't. And that's the entire story, why it's better and why we implemented this one.
If you noticed in my documentation that I provided you, I posted we might get into two-factor authentication on this answer. But the next question along these lines is, why is Trezor important to the everyday person who holds cryptocurrency or uses blockchain technology?
It's important because it makes security easy. You don't have to worry. For if we're talking about mass adoption, and I say, it has to be secure, but the security has to be easy to use. And usually the companies that produce security devices and systems either overcomplicate stuff, so then you land at security through obscurity, or they tend to make it super easy, but they relax on the security side. Trezor doesn't compromise here. It's really secure, and it's so easy to use that people with no knowledge of Bitcoin can unpack Trezor, initialize, and start using it in just a few minutes. And this is important. This is why It's good for people to have this. Also, another reason why people should go for a token like Trezor is that even if you're the best expert on security, none of us is able to tell at all times whether the computer that I'm using is safe. And all these computers that we use and the mobile phones, they have been created to share and not to protect, right? So we need to protect what's valuable and what's ours. And that's our money, and that's our identity, and that's our documents and our personal data. And you cannot do it by, learning how to encrypt your disk and reading. I saw some how to secure your Bitcoins in 45 steps or something like that. It's just like a fraction of people who would actually go through reading that. So you have to have something that people can use without reading long manuals. And, with great peace of mind, like I know that until I click that button, that my Bitcoins don't move. And I even hand out my personal Trezor, with all my Bitcoins freely to people, like, when I meet people on a conference or somewhere. And I'm not, looking all the time, where is my Trezor? Because I'm fine. I know that my Bitcoins are secure.
Historically, the two seem diametrically opposed, right? Security and simplicity. It really is a balancing act, and it seems that Trezor has found a way of reaching that balance in a very amiable way. The learning curve is not something like you said, 45 steps. Secure your Bitcoin in 45 steps is the exact opposite of simplicity, and it's the perfect example to show that difference. You guys seem like you have taken a lot of that guesswork out. Those 45 steps are no longer necessary because now it's just a couple steps.
Yes, for some people, Trezor is still too much. Let's say some people want to swipe or click the OK button and that's it. And that's fine. That's fine. Each service and each wallet has its purpose. So I don't really care about the few bucks I have in Bitcoins on my phone where I can just click and go. But I do really care about all the rest, and I want to have it well protected.
Well, this kind of brings up a good point, because you're talking a lot about we and our and community. And, one of the questions that I have is not only how does Trezor protect individuals, but how each of those individuals collectively being protected protects the community. So would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Another face of the coin is that a lot of people are simply afraid to jump in because they've heard a lot of negative publicity around exchanges being hacked and people stealing other people's Bitcoins and scammers and so on. So we need to get that security right, and we want to help with Trezor. We offered after Bitfinex hack, I even personally approached a few of them saying, guys, look, you can decrease the risk significantly. It's just about implementing a simple API that allows your users to have their coins in their Trezor while using your service. So instead of keeping 100% in a hot wallet, you would have to have a much smaller amount there. And the losses and upheavals in the ecosystem would be much smaller. But it's always about priorities and always about where that company wants to go and how they want to solve their security issues. Many of those companies that don't exist anymore have just been claiming to be secure. Mt. Gox had search for Mt. Gox. The first claim is super secure. So there's a lot of security claims, and people like me, if I didn't work with Trezor, Well, I wouldn't know how to evaluate whether the company is really secure or the system is really secure as they claim. We just published a new blog post on secure elements. Secure elements is something that's being used in the banking industry for the chip and PIN cards. And these secure elements, we've been approached by Kyle Torpy. He's been writing some article for Bitcoin Magazine, and he asked us to comment about the fact that Trezor is not using secure elements. And I said, look, it's a marketing claim. The fact that you have some certification or something from some authority, it doesn't guarantee any security. On the contrary. So whenever you hear we are the most secure, the best, be careful and examine. Whenever someone asks me, so what should I do? Well, ask around, ask the community, join the channels, ask the people.
Many of whom were doxxed.
Many of whom were doxxed, and they've done their experience. Some of them have lost a lot of money. So ask around, if you don't see real faces on their websites, if you don't know who these people are, if you don't find any positive reference, if you don't know, just ask around, use the community. This is the power of people able to talk together and share information and stay up to date. In the case of Mt. Gox, a lot of people knew that something is going wrong because they've had issues with withdrawals for several months, but yet they still kept the money there. So it's about being more aware and not rely on what authorities say. And I don't mean authorities just like governments. Authorities, whoever we choose to trust. Right. And if we choose to trust some chip producer who's saying this chip is secure because we say so, well, I say, okay, but thank you, not for me, because I only trust open source.
Because you can only trust what is transparent.
What is transparent, where independent people can go inspect exactly what it does and how. That's security. Not any promise, not any, labels and certificates from any companies or authorities.
The focus that I see, maybe you're not intentionally directing it in that way, but it really does come back to the community around you and learning from their experiences. And many people in the top cryptocurrencies beyond Bitcoin are very interested in Trezor as well. And the reason for this is, there are a number of exchanges that have been hacked. I don't know of one that hasn't, actually. Maybe there is one, but it probably hasn't been open very long. So I guess the next place that I want to take this, because you're talking about these communities, and these communities form around specific blockchains. Trezor currently supports Bitcoin, Litecoin, Namecoin, Dogecoin, Dash, Ethereum, F-Classic, Zcash, and the testnet. Are there any blockchains that you personally are interested to see added in the future?
Mainly, the fact that Trezor supports all these coin types, that's fine, but we need to focus on integrations with those services. And that's the major part. So, for example, Trezor supports Ethereum and Classic, but we need a good and solid implementation. And people have been waiting for Trezor implementation for Ethereum for some time already. It takes time to do things well, but we're working on it, and we want to deliver something that's really solid and good and that works nicely. BitShares, I would love to see integration with BitShares. The thing is, we at Trezor, we are not experts in anything else than Bitcoin. And, I would like to see a counterparty, just because I think it's an interesting idea, and it's nice for gaming and for other stuff. We need, the other side to help and build the firmware. that's needed. The same way we were not very solid in Ethereum and we needed help integrate to the Mist wallet or somewhere else, because our level of understanding of those coins is slower. So we would need to work more with the communities and for them to help us to understand, or for them to code the firmware based on their profound knowledge of their system. So yeah, it's as you said, we're going back to community all the time. It's about this. It's about this because I see a huge investments into blockchain from the corporate world, but they're kind of cooking their own cookies, you know.
Yeah, they have
their own sandbox and they're playing there. And then you have a lot of small startups. Many of them are just one or two people. And I totally understand that it's so difficult to find time to integrate some security by Trezor when you have like a 200 bullet point to-do list on your own project.
Well, you guys are having this hackathon. It seems generally this might be one of the solutions that you guys are seeing for enabling maybe a faster incorporation of these various blockchains. And with respect to the BitShares point that you made, I believe that you are going to see 3 people from the BitShares ecosystem
Yes.
at your hackathon.
Yes. I just saw the list of attendees and I saw 3 BitShares there. So I'm very excited. I'm happy because I've been talking to someone from BitShares team a long time ago explaining we would love to have BitShares, but we don't understand BitShares enough. We need someone else who understands how BitShares work to implement this. So yeah, I'm very happy to see, and there's a lot of really interesting people coming with different skill sets, with interesting expertise. Like some of them are really hackers and professionals in security, so they will be examining the software stack and so on. And some of them are from the blockchain space. So I mean blockchain, I mean all these different blockchains and different altcoin space. So it's really an exciting mix of different people, and at this point I would like to invite people, but I cannot anymore. We just closed the registrations because the capacity is really, really full.
So you're saying that you've suffered plenty of success on this seeming next step to the evolution of Trezor.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not that I would not be able to sleep because of that, of the feeling of success. You know, this is something that, in general, you know, perceiving some kind of like success is difficult when you dive so deep inside your daily work and everything. You kind of don't have time to look. Oh, we are successful. Oh, we've done it.
Yeah.
But when you meet people who know Trezor and who know about your company and they give you this feedback like, oh, you're doing a great job, or we receive really positive feedbacks all the time in the comments, in the orders, on the social media, via email, you know, and this really makes you kind of go ahead. Move ahead.
Yes.
Even at times things go, you know, difficult and go slow, and we've been through slowdowns and so many obstacles, and then you get then you receive some message like, hey guys, thumbs up, that's really nice, and amazing service or amazing whatever, and you go like, oh, that's so nice, okay. You know,
You're touching upon something that really is the heart of my next question, and that was, how has the Trezor team withstood the difficulties of providing a profitable service in such a quickly changing space? So, how have you withstood those difficulties?
Patience, you know, perseverance. Sometimes you just need to sleep well and come back and try again.
So never give up.
never give up. I mean, as I like to say, you can have the most brilliant ideas. You have to be consistent to follow through. You don't need to plan out everything. You don't need to, have a ridiculously exact schedule and plan. This is something that investors look for. But some investors are smart and understand that innovations take time, and some don't. You don't need to, plan out everything. That's not what I mean. I mean, don't give up. If you have a good idea, just follow through, and you will fail 1,000 times and you will succeed 1,000 times too. And don't be afraid of sharing. I think it's important to share. Americans are quite open. I think they are different than Europeans. Europeans are much more secretive, much more close, I would say, as I could observe. But don't be afraid to share ideas, even, through open source project, or just to talk about stuff, because your super genius idea will stay just an idea unless someone is doing that, really. And this goes back again to open source, to patenting. I'm quite opposed to patents, by the way. We slow ourselves down for the small profit. So don't be afraid to voice your ideas, share them, wish people good, because things come around. Be persistent. That's why we've also come so far with Trezor, because we have some idea about how the security design should be, and we stick to the core philosophy. We stick to the core philosophy of decentralization, because with Trezor you decentralize the risk. Basically, you hold your Bitcoins in your own hands. You don't rely on any authorities. So we stick to the core principles here. We don't fall for promises and marketing stuff. We just stick to our core idea, and we build on top of that. My guys, my team, they always surprise me with something, because sometimes I tend to be a little bit pushy. It's like, hey, it's been a while, where are you standing with this and that? And sometimes it takes enormous amount of time, and then they come with something that they have done within one night. They haven't been sleeping, and in the morning they say, I have implemented this, and I say, wow, okay. Patience, and stick to some principles. Don't leave them behind, because a new coin, a new something. Focus is important.
So it sounds like patience, focus, adhering to the principles that you started with, and remaining true to your earliest intentions, and continuing to share are all important aspects of what you have experienced. And it sounds like a lot of the sharing that has helped you continue moving forward through even the hardest times that you guys, I'm sure, have endured in your own ways. Your customers sharing feedback with you. They might not be the most technical people, and they might not be sharing code, but they are offering feedback, which is another form of sharing that, though it might be overlooked, it still seems like it's a core aspect of that sharing.
No, I mean, we do stuff for people. We don't do stuff for ourselves only, right? So if the people using Trezor are not happy with something, then I'm immediately very alert. Sometimes it's, people complaining about actually nothing, okay, but mostly there's some important message or something interesting in there. Even if it's not a bug, but it's the experience that the people have, with Trezor.
Yes.
And I always was very much customer oriented. I mean, I am a people person. So customer service was really important always, and is. So through feedback from our clients, we improve enormously as well. If we find out, oh, this was not clear, maybe we should put some warning screen or something else, just because 5 people consecutive had this issue, right? What I also like about our clients, our users, that they share that they have a Trezor, they share it further, which is brave. And which is good for us because it's helping us. So thank you everyone for doing this. So you see like people taking photos of their newly arrived Trezor as they unpack, and they post it on their social media. And this is so sweet. I really love it. It makes me feel like we have really done something that helps people and that has value for people. It feels good. This is the most rewarding feeling that you can get from working. From doing something.
Well, it sounds like to me, whenever you're seeing people unpacking it, it's almost like you're seeing children at a Christmas tree opening up their presents. And you can't help but enjoy it yourself to watch them enjoying it.
Exactly, yes.
There's only one question that I have for you now, and this might be potentially the most difficult, but are there any specific Trezor team members who you would like to thank for their role in bringing this service to the place it is today?
Well, I have to start with Slush and Stick, because those are the fathers of Trezor in general. Without them, this would not be possible. Without them, it's quite possible that a lot of people would lose their money. So these two are the alpha and omega of Trezor. And then, of course, our entire team, we are a small team of, I think today it's 12. So it's kind of like a family here. And I want to thank Honza, who was our first hire. He's the developer of mytrezor.com. He developed it entirely from the beginning. Now the team is bigger and we have new developers like Karel and Peter, so on. But Honza was there from our very early times. And I want to thank Peca, because Peca was our first support team member. He is literally living with the company, and he's taken on so many other roles throughout the time. And to my assistant Teresa, she's an angel. She makes the lives of our team much better. And to everyone, I mean, this is a really nice team to work with. Everyone's really excited about the stuff we do. We have a lot of fun here. You know, sometimes they play crazy music, sometimes they play some games, video games, and so on. But in general, they are really motivated and fine people to work with, good-hearted people. So I feel really grateful. You know, the people I'm allowed to work with, they are very smart, they are very dedicated. So all of them, thanks guys. You know, if you're listening to this, thank you. I love you.
I do appreciate you taking the time. I know that you're extremely busy, so I really want to thank you guys for everything you do, and I want to thank you especially for taking so much time out of your busy schedule to reach out and meet up with me and talk about this.
No, it was thank you. It was a lot of fun. It was really nice.
Thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Block Explorer with Alena Vranova, CEO of SatoshiLabs, the company behind the Trezor and Trezor 2 hardware crypto wallets. If you're interested in purchasing a Trezor, check out www.buytrezor.com and use the Beyond Bitcoin discount code for 5% off the checkout. See you all next time.